In this podcast episode, Ben Shapiro discusses the controversial decision made by President Joe Biden to withhold offensive weaponry from Israel during their conflict with Hamas in Gaza. Shapiro recounts a famous anecdote from the early 80s where Senator Joe Biden clashed with the Prime Minister of Israel, Menachem Begin, over Israeli settlements. Begin, a Holocaust survivor, stood firm in defense of Israel's principles and history, highlighting his commitment to defending his country. Shapiro criticizes Biden for his weak foreign policy decisions, citing former Defense Secretary Robert Gates' statement that Biden has never been correct on foreign policy. He describes Biden as a coward and a terrible voice when it comes to international relations. Shapiro highlights Biden's opposition to the raid that killed Osama bin Laden as an example of his weakness in foreign policy matters. The podcast delves into the current situation in Gaza, where Hamas, a designated terrorist group, is holding 5 Americans hostage. Shapiro emphasizes that Biden's decision to withhold offensive weaponry from Israel is effectively siding with Hamas in the conflict. He criticizes Biden for creating an incentive for terrorists to hide behind civilians, as Israel will now be limited in its ability to target terrorists while minimizing civilian casualties. Shapiro condemns Biden's actions as morally reprehensible, pointing out that Biden kept the decision to withhold weapons from Israel hidden until after delivering a speech on Holocaust Remembrance Day. He accuses Biden of being hypocritical and evil for pretending to support Israel while actively undermining its ability to defend itself against terrorist threats. The podcast also discusses the political implications of Biden's decision. Shapiro argues that by restricting Israel's military capabilities, Biden is prolonging the conflict and emboldening Hamas. He criticizes Biden for failing to consider the potential consequences of his actions, such as a larger-scale war or the strengthening of terrorist groups in the region. Shapiro highlights the absurdity of Biden's claim that negotiations with Hamas are ongoing, pointing out that Hamas walked out of talks in Cairo following Biden's announcement. He criticizes Biden for failing to provide any viable military plans to Israel that would reduce civilian casualties while achieving the goals of freeing hostages and eliminating Hamas. The podcast continues with Shapiro criticizing the media for downplaying Biden's decision and providing cover for his actions. He highlights the UN General Assembly's expected resolution to upgrade Palestinian status at the UN, which Biden is reportedly considering not opposing. Shapiro argues that Biden's actions are detrimental to Israel's security and the stability of the region. Shapiro also discusses the response of the American defense establishment to the situation in Israel. He mentions Lloyd Austin's testimony in front of the Senate, where he was questioned about the withholding of weapons from Israel. Shapiro criticizes Austin for not acknowledging the existential threat that Israel faces from Iran, Hezbollah, and Hamas. Shapiro highlights the support that Donald Trump has shown for Israel and criticizes Biden for not following a similar approach. He argues that Trump's foreign policy was more stable and predictable, which was better for the strength of America abroad. Shapiro believes that Biden's actions are making the choice for Trump's re-election easier. In addition to discussing the situation in Israel, Shapiro also talks about recent political developments in the United States. He mentions Marjorie Taylor Greene's failed motion to vacate against the Speaker of the House and Trump's response to the situation. Shapiro praises Trump for running a more disciplined campaign and focusing on winning the presidency. Shapiro also comments on unnecessary revelations made by politicians, such as Kristi Noem admitting to shooting a dog and RFK Jr. revealing that he had a brainworm. He criticizes the media for making jokes about RFK Jr.'s health issues while defending Biden's mental fitness.